What's going on, gang? I hope this message finds everybody well. First things first, to everybody that's new to the channel, welcome. To people that have been following me for a while, thank you very much too. What I thought today was I'll do something a little bit different. Instead of talking about my business and big things about performance, I'm going to actually talk to you about what built me. Reason being is that for me is the most powerful part of my story is actually in what built everything around my performance. And what I want to do is share these lessons with you so that you can sort of use them and realize that actually where you are at is where you're supposed to be. This all stems from when I was a young child. When I was a young child, I grew up in West London, Brentford, Northfields actually, from a loving family. Very lucky to have a loving family in that area. The actual people where I was from was not the best area. It wasn't a fucking ghetto like everyone talks around, but it wasn't a nice area. And I was extremely lucky that I landed in sport and I had a family that pushed me towards being better that way. I was quite an obese kid. I got injured and I basically put a load of weight on. I have had too many roast dinners, not chocolate bars, I promise. And it took a girl in year 7 to basically just call me fat. And I went on, that's when my sort of health and fitness journey happened, where I lost 2.5 stone very, very quickly. I was training like mad, and I also did every sport under the sun. I was playing county level cricket, tennis, I threw javelin and played rugby at the same time. And it got to a point where my tennis and my rugby was I was 14. I was tennis and rugby were the two sports that I was best at for sure. I was playing for Wasps, and then I was playing county level men's tennis where I went to road to Wimbledon. I faced a young Asian lad. He looked about 7 years old, but he wasn't. He was my age, and he absolutely wiped the floor with me. And that's where my rugby journey started. I went home, said to my dad, I don't feel alive playing tennis anymore. I'm not going to get anywhere. What to do? And that's where I found Hartpury and Gloucester. So I actually left home at 16. I left everything behind, moved to Gloucester with the ambition of doing two things, playing professionally. And also I had the ambition of playing for my country, just like every kid does. They want to be the best possible British Lions and this kind of thing. But I went to Hartpury to nobody. And that's where, again, guys that understand sport, if you're in a singular sport, it's you versus you, whether you're a sprinter, a swimmer, whatever. Your time dictates your success. As a rugby player, though, it can be quite opinionated. And throughout my whole rugby career, I was always at the bottom end of not fast enough, got faster, not fit enough, got fitter, not big enough, got bigger, not better in the line out, did loads of line out lifting, even though obviously I'm a sausage. Point being, I was inadequate in every time in rugby, that would always be the bottleneck. Started in the third team, captained at 18, then got picked up by Gloucester, where I played in the A-League. And I had basically ended up moving to Exeter Chiefs for pre-season, where I've suddenly decided actually I wanted to move back to Gloucester and pursue my education, which again, we can all look back on our careers and say what we should have done. I should have definitely stayed there. That year they went Premiership. I chose that because it was easy, and that's a massive life lesson for me. I chose that because I was comfortable, and that was the first time where I realised that taking the easy route was probably not the one that you're going to sort of give it your best. Not give it your best is the wrong way of saying it. If you take the easy route, you're not going to see the fruits of your labour that you're asking for. But I still got to a position where I was playing national rugby. I was captaining Cinderford, which is 2 below Premiership. And that's where I actually got picked up. I got picked up by Doncaster Knights. And that's where I thought I'd made it. I was like, that's it. This is my moment. I'm ready for being a professional. I was professional across all realms of my life. But I was giving everything to everybody else. Me and my ex-partner had an equestrian facility, so a horse yard. I was working 3 jobs to keep it up. I literally had no money. I wasn't happy being we very much past the sort of the best part of our relationship. We shouldn't have been together at that point. 8 weeks into my into my first rugby contract, my ex-partner was getting attacked by a horse. I got involved. I ended up getting kicked in the side of the knee, which snapped my knee in half, my ACL, PCL, my MCL. I just remember ringing my mum and screaming, like blood curdle screaming at her. And she thought I was joking. She was laughing at me, thinking I was being stupid. And I wasn't. I was telling her that my leg was flopping off, not off, but flopping at the bottom. I remember sitting in the hospital and the nurse picking up my foot and walking 45 degrees, and it just kept on going. That was the first moment that I realised that there has to be a part of you that's selfish. My whole life I wanted to please everybody else and be everyone's best friend, and I would protect everybody but myself. I was willing to suffer emotionally, physically, just because I think it sort of stems from inadequacy. They call it a facade, don't they? If you can look after everybody else, everyone thinks that you're this, where actually what I was doing is because I didn't feel like I was adequate, I wanted to prove myself. That's a bit deep, but you'll see why that is later on. ended up having 4 operations. Me and my ex-partner split because we just outgrown each other. But I moved out. I left with nothing. I moved up to Doncaster. Shout out to Mr. Dan Smith, DSFL, for housing me. But I moved there just with my dog, with literally no kit. And there was only one mission. That was to play professional rugby again. I was told I wasn't going to walk again properly. I told I may not be able to run. I was told that I shouldn't be doing heavy weights. I was told that I'll never do anything on my knees, like being a carpet fitter, which I wouldn't want to be a carpet fitter anyway. I played rugby in 10 months. Not because I'm a freak, but because I literally went all in. I didn't give myself an option. And to be honest, a bit barbaric, I didn't care. I was going to play professional rugby again. There wasn't a bone in my body. And then when people know, I'll talk about having faith. I'm not religious whatsoever, but I have faith in myself. And it took, shout out to Natasha Bedford too. She believed in me. She was my physio at the time. She was one of the only people that said that it was going to happen. Fast forward a little bit more. Played for Donny, played for Hull. Met my wife, Rach, at the time obviously wasn't my wife. She was swimming for Great Britain, moved to Australia to play at Manly whilst she was going for the Rio Olympics. She unfortunately didn't get in there. She missed it by 0.1 of a second. So she came out with me, moved back home. She signed for a professional swimming team that was global, team that sort of competed across the world. I had enough of rugby. Rugby had done. I got to the position. I played pro. I played 10 years semi-pro. I got to the heights in which I was going to ever get to, and I decided, you know what, I need to change. The next part of my life needs to happen. The only way to do it is to run away, and the only way to run away is to go to somewhere that I know I can be somebody that people don't know me. And that was, I knew one of my friends, Fraser in Singapore, rang him to go visit him, got me a job as a personal trainer, and I suddenly realised that part of what I was doing was I was using that alter ego. I was going to become something different. I didn't know what. But all I ever identified as a rugby player, my whole life was being a rugby player. Everything I ever did and stemmed from was being an athlete. I didn't care about anything else, and I would suffer to do it. Well, suddenly I realised I was a civilian, but I also wanted to be a high-performing businessman, which I wasn't in the UK. I was a coach at a high school and a physio at my own PT business, which did like bits of stuff in parks and stuff. I needed to become something different. So I moved to Singapore, and over the next 5 years, I turned from just being an athlete to being a businessman, to being a professional who physically wanted to be the best I could be, also wanted to professionally and personally develop. And that's where I found my coach, Jay Headley, shout out to him, who massively helped me get over the premise of being a professional athlete to actually how this has all stemmed for me is to being professional across all realms of my life. This is where, as a coach, I found how to perform at my best on a continual basis. And actually what that stems from is from personal development. I kept reinvesting into myself, how to teach myself to be a better athlete, teach myself to be in a healthy position, teach myself from a nutritional standpoint, from a psychological standpoint, from an athletic standpoint, professional, personal, all these pieces of that peak performance pyramid that we all look at. This is where it stemmed from Singapore. And then that's when COVID hit. Rachel was with me for obviously full time then. We got married in Singapore. Because we were supposed to get married in the UK, but we had to get married in Singapore because she lost her visa, not for her fault, other reasons. And then we just decided, you know what, COVID was cooked. So we moved back to the UK where all this was born. We decided to move to Manchester randomly. Basically, I didn't want to move back to London. I wanted to move somewhere where I could be outside and get a dog and all that kind of stuff. Because that means a massive part for me is the exploration and adventure side of things. I don't want to just be a one-stop shop. I need to be outdoors. I need to get muddy, my mum would say. And I can't just be cooped up. And Singapore for me was a cash cow to be able to come home and reinvent myself to build the business that we've done right now, which is obviously the Stay Strong Collective is part of what we've built and how we operate, and we're working at helping professionals be better, do better, perform with a purpose, which is the big thing that we do, and taking that personal training element that we had in Singapore and actually building that as an online platform to educate people and give people structure around elevating across 3 key areas, which is personal, professional, and physical, which is what, as you can tell throughout my story, that's exactly what it's built to. So I hope that gives everybody a bit of an understanding of what built me, why I'm the way that I am, why the sort of what our ethoses are. If you guys want to know what the sort of the bigger parts of our company, the YouTube video, the Stay Strong Strength System, talks about our philosophy, and that gives you a bit of an insight into the bigger picture of all this thing. But again, thank you very much for signing up. Thank you very much for subscribing. Looking forward to educating everybody in relation to all things high performance across those key realms. If you have any questions, you want to reach out and you've got either similar stories, I hope you haven't got similar stories getting kicked by a horse, but something similar that you find is your superpower, I'd love to know more, because I think that connection over consumption is massively important. And one of the reasons why we do long form content on YouTube is not just for people to be able to digest stuff, it's for them to actually be educated by it and take action. So anyway, I digress. I'll catch up with you guys soon.